What's up everybody? This video is about my suggestion to Agma Shwa's cursed conlang Circus, which is named or for short. With nothing more to say, let's jump right in, starting with the phonology. Main consonants are fa, 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 sa, la, sha, sha, hya, ha, 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 va, va, za, za, ra, ra, ja, ja, ra, ra, wa, ra, pa, pha, pha, ca, cha, 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 kya, kha, 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 ha, bha, bha, dha, dza, dra, ja, ja, gya, gra, gra, kha, ra, fa, 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 sa, a, sha, sha, a, 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 va, 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 za, ra, ja, ja, ya, ra, 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 fa, 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 sa, sa, sha, 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 ha, 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 va, 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 za, ra, ja, 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 ra, ra, ha, ra, fa, 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 sfa, sfa, shfa, shfa, hiha, hiha, haha, 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 v, a, v, a, v, a, z, a, z, a, z, a, j, a, y, a, r, a, r, a, r, a, r, a, ha, 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 sa, ha, sha, sha, ha, 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 va, 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 za, ra, ja, 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 ha, rha, rha, Ha. There are also ingressive consonants. Thankfully, there are only 4 of them. Short and middle and long. Short ingressives harmonize with the main egressive consonants. With which sounds they are harmonized will be talked about in morphology sections since it will make more sense there. And the long ingressive has 4 tones. Middle tone, low tone, high tone, and the falling tone. And again, the purpose of tones will be talked about in the morphology section, which will be right about now. So for this section I'll show you what the name of the conlang means and how it was made for demonstration purposes. Every root word is composed of 5 egressive consonants. The root of a first word is s, which means speech. Now the things get a lot more complex, literally, since we'll be doing some math on the complex numbers. Every aggressive consonant is a phonemic representation of a complex number. Real and imaginary parts of those numbers can range from 1 to the up to dozen, and yes, this conlang is base 12 system. And every number in this video will be in base 12 unless specified otherwise. So really, root words are just list of complex numbers, and in our case this list would be 4 plus 1 I, 1 plus 1 I, dozen plus 10 I, dozen plus 10 I, and 9 plus 1 I. Next step is to conjugate by class, which there are 256 different classes. To conjugate by class, you need to perform a set of operations, ignoring standard operation order. The first word is conjugated by class 6, which is for tools. This results in meaning of tool of speech, which means language. The set of operations for it are addition, addition, subtraction, subtraction, which would result in the equation of 4 plus 1 I plus 1 plus 1 I minus dozen plus 2 I plus dozen plus 2 I minus 9 plus 1 I, which equals to minus 4 and 1 I. Now, ordinarily, 4 plus 1 I is represented by the phoneme sa. But since it's negative 4 plus 1 I, we will need to use one of the short ingressives, specifically the lateral ingressive. The short ingressive change the value represented by the phoneme they modify. If placed on the left side, ingressive modify the value of the real part of the complex number, and if on the right, the imaginary part. Short ingressive harmonized with the phoneme they modify. Since our phoneme is plain and the real part is negative, then we place the lateral ingressive before our phoneme. Next, we'll add the word core, which is by default zh, zh. We'll add it after our phoneme. And finally, we need to add the long ingressive. The long ingressive marks how true the word is. And now we are done with the first word. So let's move on to the next one. The second word's root is ch, which means thing. It is conjugated by the first class, reserved for things. Its series of operations is addition, 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 which when applied to the root results in the result 3 dozen 3 plus 10. Since the result is bigger than a dozen, we need to do a couple of things. Firstly, we need to divide it by a dozen. This gives us 3.3 plus 10.10i. Secondly, we need to take first numbers before and after the dozen dot and combine them into complex numbers. This will give us 3 plus 3i and 1 plus 10i. Let's call these numbers A and B. Next, we'll need to take the word core and attach the phonemic representation of number A before the word core and phonemic representation of number B after the word core. Then we take the result of the initial division and round it down. This will result in 3 plus 1i. We call this number x. Next, we subtract the number x from the result of the division, and a result of the subtraction we multiply by a dozen. This will result in 3 plus ai. This is number y. Then finally we put the number x before the number a and number y after the number b. But we are not done with the second word, since it's also conjugated by case. There are also 65 cases in which is one more than chess, a natural language. Conjugating by case is similar to conjugating by class. To do both, you need to perform a series of operations on complex numbers. But in case of case, you need to do only 3 of them, and you do it to numbers in the word core and numbers immediately before and after the word core. While results of the equations can only go up to a dozen when conjugating by class, when conjugating by case they can go up to 2 dozen. Because when conjugating by case, the result is divided by 2, which is then written down 2 times like j in the default word core, and the result is written down instead of the word core. And when the result exceeds 2 dozen and performing the operation to scale it down, you don't calculate a and b, only x and y. And after you divide a and b by 2, you put a on the left side and b on the right side, then duplicate them. Our word is conjugated by the abusive case. Its operations are multiplication, addition, addition. When applied, this results in 5 plus 2008i. Reducing it results in 0 plus 2i and 5 plus 8i. The next step is to divide them by 2, but since 5 plus 8i is a odd number, we need to use the middle ingressive. Basically, the middle ingressive adds a half to a number. Similarly to short ingressives, if put on the left side, it means that a real part has an additional half, and in of the right than the imaginary part. With this in mind, the final version of the second word is v, 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 v. Now moving on the third word. The root word of the third word is think, the same as before, but in class 241. Operations for the 241st class, which is reserved for words, is division, addition. Conjugating our root results in 1001.3001 plus 7.11,9i. Since the result is a fraction, we need to multiply it by a power of a dozen. In our case, it would be dozen to a power of 2. This brings up the second use of the middle ingressive, which is to mark when the result was multiplied by the power of a dozen. This works by putting the amount of middle ingressive, which is equal to the power of a dozen. For example, if a result was multiplied by dozen to the power of 2, we put 2 middle ingressives. These middle ingressives are put before the long ingressive if conjugating by class, and after the word core if conjugating by case. In our case, the result will be multiplied by a dozen to the power of 2, which is a gross. Since we are conjugating by class, the middle ingressives will be put before the long ingressive. Since the number is bigger than a dozen after it is already divided, all we need to do is calculate A and B, then divide it again, calculate A and B again, and continue the process until we get a number that less than a dozen, and then do as normal. And in case, if the number is still bigger than a dozen after dividing it, you need to calculate the y rather than A and B. Third word is conjugated by the contrastive nominative case. Its order of operations is subtraction, multiplication, subtraction. Combining everything we've talked about before, the final version of the third word is me talking about how the conlang's title was constructed. We can now finally understand what it means. It literally means a language without a thing but nouns. Which is a nice segue into next section of this video, which will be about grammar. So as you heard a moment ago, only has nouns. That means it has no verbs, adjectives, pronouns, demonstratives, prepositions, etc. Now, you may be asking, then how do you build sentences in The answer is zero copula. To those who don't know, zero copula is basically just opposing two nouns to make an is statement. The zero copula appears in Russian, for example. Normally, the cases of those two nouns are either nominative or ergative. but we can change those to acquire new meanings. For example, if we change the second noun's case to either accusative or absolutive, it means A does B. If we change the first word's case to genitive 1 or genitive 2, it means A has B. These are called juxtapositions. Other notable juxtapositions include first word either nominative or ergative and second word is instrumental. That means A is using B. When the first word's cases are either nominative or absolutive and the second word's cases are one of the locative cases, that means that A is in, at, or on B. When the first word's case is causative and the second one is either accusative or absolutive, that means that A either caused or made B. When the first word's cases are either nominative or absolutive and the second word's cases are one of the ablative or allative cases, that means that A is moving towards or from B. Now, you may have noticed that there are both nominative and accusative cases and ergative and absolutive cases. That's because every word in is assigned as either nominative accusative or ergative absolutive. Genitive 1 and 2 dative instrumental cases have versions both for nominative accusative alignment and ergative absolutive alignment. Genitive 1 and 2 must agree in alignment with the noun they're possessing. Note that the genitives don't agree when part of the juxtaposition, whilst the dative and instrumental cases agree with the clause they modify. To determine the clause's alignment, all you need to do is to perform a XOR operations and treat the subject and object of the clause as the inputs. 0 for nominative accusative and 1 for ergative absolutive. The causal, vocative, conditional, and contrastive cases have nominative, ergative, accusative, and absolutive versions, and causal and vocative have plain ones. Those are double cases. This means that they take on function of both the first and the second case. The plain versions do not take on the second case. There are also different type flows in The first one is the normal type flow. It is used as a default and requires no alteration in speech. The second one is nerd type flow. It is used when talking about scientific fact. It requires speaker to pronounce sibilants with a lisp and add a slight nasal quality to the speech. It will sound something like that. The third and fourth one are left and right variants of political type beat. They are used when speaking publicly about politics. When you're advocating for left-wing positions, you use the left variant, and if you are advocating for right-wing positions, you use the right one. The political type flow requires you to mimic speech patterns of a Democratic candidate for president if you're on the left side, and the Republican one if you're on the right side. So, if you're on the right, you need to mimic speech patterns of Donald Trump, and if you're on the left, you need to mimic speech patterns of what would be Kamala Harris, but I made executive decision to nominate Joe Biden for this job instead, because it would be infinitely funnier. With nothing more to say, this is the moment you all been waiting for, which is the translation. Hope you'll enjoyed this one, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.